bright. I got some lights up because it was getting dark outside. So, yeah. Anyways, okay, let's move on. So day 3 in Callao. Let me see. I think this day was really interesting just because um, after Annie's testimony and after a couple of conversations I had with some team members, I guess during the week, I began to kind of look a little bit more deeply into my own testimony and deeply into my own life, and really ask God to convict me of something, of something that was bothering me for actually a while before this trip. Um, and I've been kind of asking God, like, why am I struggling with this so much? And it was definitely the problem of attention, the need for attention. Um, I think, I mean, one way it was manifested, this need and longing was actually through the skit and the skit and the dances. Like, I really did enjoy the attention I got from it, and also um, kind of how I could. Sometimes I felt like I could take pride in the way I acted or the way I danced or whatever. And I felt like that was also sometimes a way that I held myself. Um, when I was, not talking to people, but like, um, if I got like a chance to gain attention for myself, then I would try to do that. Or even it was, and it can also be distracting in the sense where I would um, twist things that it was very clearly God was doing, and twist them to praise or glorify myself. And I hated that. I knew it was wrong. I could sense myself doing it, and I would really try to turn myself away from it um, pretty often. And I was just continually crying out to God about it. And it was really on this third day in Callao when it really hit me, and God really convicted me of that. Um, and I began to struggle with it, like really struggle with it. Now that I had pinpointed this problem of need for attention, um, I think I kind of labeled it as pride for a really long time, and I kept on saying like, oh, I just have so much pride in myself. I just want to continue to be prideful. But I think it was really now that I've kind of rephrased it and look at it in a different perspective, it's very clear to me that I am missing, you know, I'm missing out on the attention that God has for me, for the love that God has for me. And I'm still working through it now, since it was just so recently, like it's just maybe 2 days ago when I realized it. Um, but I think God has really allowed me to cry out to Him even more, and to really ask that His name be glorified throughout the rest of the trip. That I really didn't want the attention, and I knew that the enemy would try to tempt me by putting me in situations where I would be able to like show off or try to get attention or whatever. But I think my prayer for the rest of the trip was really um, that the glory of God would really just squash that. So squash the need for attention, that I would want God to be famous. I would want God and God alone to have the attention that I desire for myself. And I think God spoke very clearly into me by showing me, like there is really nothing in me that I want, that I am proud of. Like whatever talents I try to be proud of is from Him. Whatever words I say is from Him. Whatever prayers I speak is from Him. Like there is nothing from me, from myself, that I can be proud of. Like the only thing that I should be proud of is like my weaknesses, because that's where God can show His strength, right? Like that's what Paul says too. And so I really began to look at this pride and this need for attention as like a weakness, where I wanted to see God at work, where I wanted to see God break through and really, just shine shine through it, because I personally don't have much to give anymore. And so I went into day 3 kind of really, I don't know, like kind of tired, kind of really spiritually drained, just because I'd spent so much time the night before thinking about this and really crying out to God for clarity. Um, and I think he really granted me with with experiences that showed me just how much everything that I am giving, everything that I am pouring out is from Him. Um, so the first thing that we did on the next day was I think we went out to a park. Let me make sure. Yeah, so we went out to a park, And it was kind of like the soccer park thing, and we were able to yeah, just continually pour out into the community. We actually ran into a church that had a bunch of kids, and we also ran into like the kids, the people who were leading the kids. And after we did like our dances and our skit and stuff like that, and we, um, like we went through, we kind of met up with our group at least met up with the kids again, more kids, and got to talk with them a little bit, ask them about how they were doing, and we even got to meet the husband and wife that were overlooking these kids. They weren't part of our church, but like as this church, and seeing them work together to really pour into these kids. And the wife looked at me and pointed me out and saying, "I see joy in you." She was saying like, "I see that you have this extra joy," and I was really touched by that, especially with where I was. Like what I just explained was that I felt pretty broken. I felt like I was kind of inadequate right at that point, to really do much work, just because I was so like bogged down by my convictions, and I had a really hard time pouring out. But having her say that to me and showing me like whatever is coming out of me is really from Him. The way I dance, the way I present myself, the way I have that smile on my face, like the dorky smile I have on my face the whole time I do those dances is ridiculous. But I think seeing that joy, seeing her say that, that joy, and I could only say like it's from God. That's all I could say to her. I was like, it's from God, and I was really grateful that that she was able to say that to me, and I was able to just realize how much God was working through me. We were also able to do more food distribution in that community. We had a list of people from the church in Callao, and there was like specific people that they wanted us to minister to and to reach out to, with food distribution, and also with tickets to the free market again. So I met up with someone who had diabetes, met up with her, and really got to pray over her family. Funny story. Has nothing to do with ministry. But they have this little puppy in their house, and we've been seeing so many stray dogs in the community, and we can't pet any of them because we don't know if they have rabies. We don't know if they're infected with anything. We just like can't touch them. We just kind of like push them off. They've also been like kind of a distraction sometimes with like all the barking and stuff like that. Some of them like are fighting and whatnot. But they have like this family had like a little tiny puppy. It was so cute. We were like all over it because this is like the first dog we could pet in such a long time. So that was really cute. That's like such an aside. They also had a cat that was like in the corner, and it was just like who are these people doing here? But it was really cute, just to be able to see that, and I really hope that little puppy brings a lot of joy into the family, because the family definitely does need a lot of prayer. The mother has diabetes, and she kind of sells little things here and there to try to support herself and her family. Her one of her sons is working, another son is in school, so definitely not like a well off to do family, right? And also with just the poverty of the community, I'm sure it's very difficult for her to get the therapy and the medicine that she needs to treat her diabetes as well. I also met another person who was like a grandmother. She had some knee or leg issues, and what was actually really exciting was that we actually got to meet her daughter, and also her grandchild. Like we met her grandchild at the same time we met the grandmother, but it was a mom and the son that came to the free market afterwards, and man, their story is incredible. Really, really heartbreaking, but also really hopeful. It makes me really hopeful for the community. So this woman, so the grandmother's name is Isabel. She has a little bit of problems with her knee, and she was really asking us to pray for that and pray for healing. But when we met the mom, the mom's name was Ophelia. The son's name was Ismail, and it was incredible to hear what they had to say. So basically, just to cut to the chase, Ophelia is a single mother, and she's separated from her husband for a couple of years, and she's like off working, which is why we didn't see her earlier in the day. And basically, she shared with us was like, I'm separated from my husband, and my husband actually beat up my older son and killed him. And first of all, that was really heartbreaking for us to hear. We were just like, wow, this woman had to go through so much. it was even more heartbreaking was seeing Ismail sitting next to her, and knowing that it was Ismail's brother that was killed. Like, to have a mother and to have this mother go through the death of one of her sons, but also this boy who had to go through that. Um, but I think what was most encouraging, the thing that gave us the most hope in spite of that story, was the joy that was in both of their faces. I will not forget the smile that was on Ismail's face the whole time. How just excited he was to meet us. How excited he was to share. How excited he was to, um, yeah, just be there. He's a very intelligent boy. I could just tell by looking at him. I also asked the mom about him as well, and she was like, "Yeah, he's at the top of his class. He wants to become a doctor. He loves math. Like, this kid is destined to do great things." This mother is full of joy as well. Like, she is so strong in her faith that she is able to forgive her husband for what he has done, and able to really ask us, the really main prayer request that she had for us was that Ismail would be protected, that her husband would not go after him as well, and that was really her fear, and something that I will continue to pray over, because it is so clear this boy is destined for greatness, and that he can do many, many great things. And I hope that just because this father does not know God, does not know the saving grace of Jesus Christ, um, that darkness will not envelop him and bring him to the point of hurting Ismail as well. So I really definitely would ask you, if you're watching this, to really continue to pray over that as well, and ask that God will be working in that family. We also got to meet. It was really neat that we not only got to meet people in the church, because that was kind of like the main point of the list that was given to us. We kind of followed around the pastor's wife for food distribution. She was going to lead us to certain people. And we actually got to meet kind of some random people that were like either not in the church, or were kind of familiar with the church but weren't like really members. So that was really neat. We got to pray over a couple of single mothers and over their kids. We got to actually another family we got to pray over, the dad is fairly young, so he like still goes to their youth group. Their youth group isn't like just youth; it's also like late 20s ish. So it kind of has that range, that pretty big range. And so that was really encouraging, because that family is so ready to be, to I guess, be a family of Christ. Like they've only been in the church for about 3 months, and they really want to pursue Christ. They're like sitting down together to read Proverbs every night. They're reading, or Psalms or something, and they all want to go to church. They just asked us for prayer over, just over their family, and over the fact that they were so new to the church, that they would continue to pursue it, that they would not fall into the temptations that Callao might offer them. So that was really, really encouraging to see. We also got to meet another lady who, this was a really interesting encounter, a very unique one that our ministry group didn't really have any time else. It was, we got to talk to this one lady that the pastor's wife led us to, and then all of a sudden she like pointed us at her sister, and the pastor's wife was like, "Please minister to this woman, because this is really the only chance you will ever get to minister to this woman." And we're like, "Okay, we'll do it. We'll show her the tract, and we'll ask her if she wants to accept the prayer, right?" So we did that. We did our best to do that. We shared with her the tract, and then she shared with us when we asked her, like, "Do you want to accept Christ?" She was like, "I'll think about it." And this was really the first time where we were told no. I mean, we've been rejected from prayer before, but I don't think we've ever been rejected from receiving the prayer before, receiving like the salvation prayer before, especially after sharing the tract. So that was an interesting standstill, first of all, kind of awkward. I personally was not fully there, because I was very distracted by the Kung Fu Panda that was happening in the background. That was kind of my spiritual warfare moment, where I could not focus because there was Kung Fu Panda playing in the background, and I really like Kung Fu Panda. But thankfully, Ross and Rob were able to kind of pull through and really ask questions. I was able to come in when I could, when God was gracious and allowed me to refocus myself. And was interesting to talk with the woman. She was Catholic. She felt like um, she wasn't really ready for Christ yet. We're not quite sure why, but it was definitely a very struggle, a very much of a struggle to communicate with her clearly why we desire for her to accept Jesus Christ so much. It's not even about the different denominations or even Catholicism versus Christianity. It's really about how much God cares for her and how much He loves her. Um, Ross also asked the question of, what are you going to do if you're going to die today? Do you know where you're going? And she just gave him a really nasty look. It was pretty nasty, and I think it was kind of surprising for both of us to see that coming from someone in that community, because we felt like there was just so many people in the community that was thirsty for Jesus, just so thirsty for that bridge to life and bridge to hope, right? So that was definitely a very interesting encounter. I think we were able to give her food and also a ticket as well. I can't remember if she came or not, but nonetheless, I hope that we were also able to pray for her, and just hopefully it was encouraging to her. While we don't know if she accepted Christ sooner, after we left, or if it's God is still working in her, but I definitely do pray that God is working in her, and will allow her to see that there is only hope in His Son. There is really nothing that she can do that will allow her to have that joy and that hope. That only really comes from God and from the saving grace of Jesus Christ. Let's see. I think that night was really cool. We got to meet with a lot of people during the free market. We just got to pray over people who had come from separated families. A lot of the women that we met asked us to actually pray over their husbands, just the husbands that were separated from them, their ex-husbands. And it was really encouraging to see that a lot of them had already forgiven their husbands, and really just wanted to support them through prayer, to ask us to pray that they would also come to know the same God that we all do. So that was really neat. We also got to meet a couple of families. It was really encouraging to see them. Like, there's a single mom with their kids, right? There's this one specifically. I think her name was Cynthia, not the translator, but like another family, another mom, and her two kids. And I think it was really neat that I got to connect with them in a way that I didn't even come across my mind that I would ever share this with anyone. I don't think I've even shared this with like many of my friends. Sorry, Mom and Dad, if you're hearing this and you did not want me to share this, but I will try to keep it low key. But it was interesting that I got to share that about my brother. Like, there, these two kids that we were seeing, they were just kind of fidgety and like really like all over the place, and her mom was. I was just like, like, they're really. I'm sure there's really smart kids. Like, I'm sure you. Just have patience with them. And she was like, yeah, like, it's hard to have patience with them. They're always running all over the place. And I actually got to share a little bit about my brother. Like, my brother, we've noticed for several years in my family that he's also kind of fidgety. Like, he's always like kind of really distracted and stuff like that. And we finally got him tested for like ADD and stuff like that, ADHD. And he tested positive, and my brother is now on meds. But I think what I really hope to encourage this family, this mother, was that these kids are really smart. Like, don't doubt their ability. My brother is, man, I'm so proud of my brother. I don't know if he knows this, but my brother, he is so smart. He goes to science competitions, and he like does these really very interesting science projects. He's only a sophomore in high school right now, and he's definitely been like, my dad's really been giving him opportunities just to pursue his interest in like aerospace, his interest in like marine life, his interest in just in science in general. And it's been really encouraging to see how my brother has flourished under that, and how in spite of this like constant distractions, right, like constant fidgeting or whatever, like, that is not an indication of how smart someone is. That's not an indication of how far they'll go in life. It's it's really just the opportunities that God gives them to like practice the talents that God has given them. So I really hope that I was able to encourage the moms through that, because I didn't think I was gonna be able to share that with really anyone. I wasn't really planning to, but hopefully like she was encouraged by that, because I personally am very encouraged every single time I see my brother, and I'm very, very proud of my brother, and I hopefully this mom will be very proud of her kids as well, and what they are able to do. um, let's see, what else do I want to share. I This poor little kid, she so this kid was actually part of the family that I just mentioned earlier, and they were able to come. um, they were able to come to the free market, and it was really neat to see them again. And then all of a sudden, um, someone runs up to me like, "Do you have a Band-Aid? Like this baby has is bleeding on her forehead, because yeah, apparently had like a scab on her forehead." And I had to kind of play nurse, and was like trying to like fix it up, and like had to use Band-Aid and tissues and stuff like that, because it's a baby, right? It's a very small portion of the forehead. So that was kind of just a fun thing, more for myself to remember than for you to hear, but that's okay. Um, the last thing I really want to share is about this couple. We actually heard about the couple earlier in the day. We weren't able to meet with them. It was like on the list of people that the pastor's wife wanted us to meet, but they were like at work. So she asked us like keep a bag of food for them, keep a ticket for them, things like that. And we weren't planning to really meet them until the next day when they were at church. Um, and so God is really, really amazing in that He provided us the opportunity to meet this couple that night instead of the next day. And we were able to speak into this couple and really ask them about, um, really speak about just how God's been working in their lives. Um, and I think what was especially special about this couple was that they had AIDS. Both of them have AIDS, and both of them are relatively new to the church. And what was really cool was that they told us that they actually stopped drinking and doing drugs once they joined the church. And it was also really encouraging to me that they were able to encourage one another in their walk with Christ. Both of them work at fairly dangerous jobs. They kind of like the public transportation in Peru is, I mean, traffic in general in Peru is ridiculous. So needing to work for public transportation is just dangerous in itself. But this couple, like both of them worked as like people who like called people into public transportation buses, and they have to like run out and like call people in, and like it's just like dangerous, right? And on top of that, this woman was pregnant. She's 8 months pregnant. Like what? Why would you be working a job like that? But she is like, she definitely is in a lot of pain. She definitely is not comfortable working at the job, but I can see why, just to be able to support themselves. Um, and so yeah, so that was really special just to be able to meet them. And actually, when we met them, we didn't even know that they had AIDS. We had heard that we want to minister to a couple with AIDS, but they weren't available at the time. So we actually met this couple as just a couple, in Christ, as people that we wanted to encourage and people that we wanted to care for and pray for. It was only afterwards, when they had left with their free clothes, when someone pulled me aside and was like, "That's a couple with AIDS." I was just like, "What?" Like God had allowed us and planned in it, in His divine providence and timing, to allow us to meet this couple, in spite of us not thinking we would meet this couple, but we got to meet them anyway. And on top of that, we got to meet them as real people. We got to meet them without knowing they had AIDS. And we got to care for them and pray for them, as brothers and sisters in Christ. And I think that was really amazing. So I'm going to close with that, and I will move on to the last day of our time at Callao.